Good morning. Welcome to Our Town at Comma Coffee. I'm Kurt Caraway. This morning we're going to be talking to Mayor Bob Crowell, who just got back from a trip to China. Right now we're going to take a short break for a word from our sponsor.
The Carson Mall has exciting shopping. All this and more at the Carson Mall.
And we're back, talking with Bob Crowell. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, just fine.
It's good to be back in Carson City.
You had kind of a long week last week.
It was, I left on a Friday. I left on a Monday, got back on a Friday, and spent 2.5 days in China. And, it was a long way to go, halfway around the world to show the flag for Carson City. But I thought it was important to do it, and I did it on my own nickel. The government, what happened was the government of China and a group called the Asia Pacific CEO Association put on a summit called the First World Emerging Industry Summit in Changchun, China, which is in northeast China, north of Beijing, about an hour and a half north of Beijing. And the summit was attended by a number of CEOs and their CEO designates that are doing business throughout the world, and I thought it was a good time for me to go and one, meet people, two, tell the international community that Carson City's on a map and that we have a wonderful quality of life here, and if they would like to look at doing some investment in our community, we'd be happy to have them come over here and take a look. And so that's what I did. All
right, so a little freelance economic development recruiting here.
You know what it was, and I know we've got some great economic development folks throughout the state, and NNDA and the other organizations, not that I'm trying to supplant them. I just figured, you know what, it says a little different statement when you've got the mayor of the community stepping up personally to do it.
All right, so well, tell us a little bit about this trip. You flew over to Beijing, I guess, and
went to Seattle, then to Beijing, and then north to Changchun. I got in about midnight, and the first people I met were the Polish ambassador to China, who just happened to be connected with some of the people who were putting the event on. So that gave me a good in to having, because I was out 6,000 miles away from town, from the United States, and I got to meet some people right then who helped me get acclimated and welcome me. I had a speech prepared to give to the group, and I was able to give that the next day. I got up, 4 or 5 hours later, and gave a speech to them, and it was very well received. Oddly enough, there were some other mayors there, not necessarily small town mayors, but communities a little bit smaller in population size in Carson City. I was the only one that gave a speech, but they were there doing the same thing I was.
Yeah, all right. And what did you kind of tell them? What was your...
Well, the message was, one, it was kind of a message designed twofold. One, to talk to the Chinese people, and two, to talk to the participants in the meeting. And the message to the Chinese people was that, Carson City has a long cultural history with the Chinese community. In fact, we have... the railroad system we have in northern Nevada here to the gold mines was the one that created a large part of the financial, the foundation for our businesses, to grow in our community. And so I wanted them to know, we appreciated that, and that we have a long history with the Chinese Americans in here in the United States. And so that was the part of it, and the other part was to let the other attendees know what a quality of life we've got here. And then I told them, I said, I'm not bringing any money. What I am bringing is a statement as to what my community has. It's got the best quality of life in the United States.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break and come right back after a word from our sponsor.
Never before have 2 words said so much. I am is what motivates us every day.
I am grateful.
I am is what drives us to treat each patient like family.
I am blessed.
And I am is what you can depend on when you need it most.
I am a survivor.
I heal.
I care.
I am Carson Tahoe.
And we're back, talking with Mayor Crowell. You were just talking about, you gave the speech in this town in China. Now, what did you see over there? What did you What were your
Wasn't it-
impressions of this?
Yeah, you know, I hadn't been back. The last time I was there, when I was in the Navy. I was in Hong Kong. You know, and
Yeah.
Hong Kong is its own little separate entity right now. And you know, I was frankly quite surprised at the level of investment that's going on in China. When you look at you know, you got up the next morning and you go for a trip in Changchun, and I went to the day after I spoke, we went on a tour of Changchun, and we went on a tour of their high-tech park, or the one that they're contemplating. And I'll tell you, Kirk, everywhere you looked on every building there was a crane. I mean, it was really rather amazing. It was kind of like an erector set throughout this city of 10 million people. Cranes dotted the landscape. And so when I go on, you know, and I wanted to go see their high-tech center, their knowledge and high-tech center, and frankly, I thought it was going to be, you know, something like, you know, we have our college up here on the hillside. And when I got there, you know, we drove way out of Changchun, and I got there, and some of the buildings were starting to come out, but you know, not all of them. But I went into their to the building where they're doing the design work, and they have a mock-up of what their high-tech and knowledge center is going to be. And let me tell you, it is really rather intimidating in a sense. It is not just a building or a cluster of buildings. It is an entire city, a community. And I took a video of it because I couldn't get it all in.
Yeah.
If it's okay with you, I'll shoot you a copy of that video.
Yeah.
But it was a whole community, and I think these types of communities, these high-tech communities, are being developed throughout the Pacific Rim. And you know, you will have the community who has you know, pharmaceutical pod here, renewable energy pod here, auto pod here, your cultural center here, your downtown center here, your recreational center here. There's a river going through it. It's all a master planned, you know, community dedicated to high-tech and knowledge industries. Really rather unbelievable.
I mean, it doesn't sound like there's anything even like that remotely in the United States, much less, you know, this area.
You know, I found myself thinking on the way back, you know, what do you make of this? You know, what should I make of it? You know, what is the message? You know, and you know, one message is, you know, you can understand, you can see why China has now outstripped Japan as the second highest industrial power in the world. You know, and I'm not any big expert on global economy or things like that by any stretch of the imagination, but you know, what it indicated to me is that there's just there's a tremendous emphasis on high tech in the Pacific Rim, and you know, it's not, you know, I just wonder, you know, I don't want us, the United States, to get left behind, and I left with kind of a feeling of, you know, there's so much money, so many people, so much energy, so much human capital going there. How do you ever compete with that? And you know, that was a little intimidating. You know, on the other side of things, in China, there are some things that are changing with the economy. You know, I was told by some of the CEOs that I met that the labor rates are going up in China because one of the Chinese companies, a very well-known Chinese company, had some of its employees were killing themselves, committing suicide
because Foxconn or something.
Foxconn, yeah. And that board decided what they would do is double the wages for all their employees. Yeah. And what happened is that is spreading throughout China now. So that means that the wage rates are going up, and that's, you know, good on the one side for the workers, and it's also, you know, helps in terms of what it means for competitiveness for us. So anyway.
Well, sounds like it was an eye-opening trip for.
It was an eye-opening trip. I can't tell you I brought back any business, but to a T, every one of those CEOs I met over there said, "You're doing the right thing by standing up in the international community and saying who you are."
All right. Well, thanks for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Our Town at Coffee. We will catch you next time.
The Carson Mall has excellent services.